Mate, this thing's pretty naughty, you know.
Is it?
Yeah. So hello guys and girls, Harry Mackenzie of Visordown. Hope you're all doing well. Certainly not I am. We're on a massive airstrip known as Bruntingthorpe. Don't know why that was so long-winded. But yeah, we're at Bruntingthorpe. And I've been riding for a couple of weeks now, this Z900. So it's 2019 Z900. Really enjoying it so far. So let's get into a few more details. So the motor is a 948cc inline 4. It's kicking out Kawasaki claim around 125 brake horsepower. It's surprising how quickly this motor revs up. Kind of catches you a bit off guard sometimes. You know, you might be going onto, entering a slip road onto a motorway, you give it a few beans in third gear, and before you know it, you're hitting a red line. So this motor is properly sweet. And the marketing guy at Kawasaki, when he handed it over to me, he said, it's just so smooth. And I sort of was like, yeah, that's what they all say. But honestly, it is really smooth. There's not really a sort of zone on this engine that kind of is peaky. It just pulls consistently right to the sort of 10.5k red line. And as I say, you hit that red line pretty quickly. In terms of on the road and stuff like that, it's plenty of boot. You wouldn't really want any more, to be honest. I mean, it's at that limit where any more and you're just going to start getting yourself in trouble and just ripping it here, there and everywhere. So I'm really impressed with this sort of power level. It's that sweet spot between 115 and 130 brake, which most motorcycles for the road is there. That's where they're best suited at, personally. In fitting with its refined raw characteristics, which is the kind of marketing slogan of this bike, it's that 125 brake horsepower is completely unchanged. There aren't any engine modes, there isn't any traction control. It is literally 125 horsepower on tap all the time. So yeah, that's quite unique in today's sort of motorcycles, because a lot of bikes come with a boatload of electronics and you have to fiddle about with them to get on it and ride, whereas this you just hop on and you've got all the horses right there to play with. So pretty cool. The brakes, 4-pot Nissins, 300mm disc, single cylinder Nissin caliper on a slider, and yeah, it does well. This bike does have ABS. That is compulsory. I think it's been compulsory since 2016 in the UK, so it does have ABS, and it's not actually that intrusive. I've been hammering it on the track today, and there are some really rough surfaces. Although it looks smooth, and it'll probably look, I'm just making up excuses now, it'll probably look really smooth in the video, but there are some bits where you hammer on the brakes and some cracks and stuff like that, and the ABS doesn't really like intrude. Do you know what I mean? You can hammer on the brakes nice and hard. Yeah, you feel it kicking on the lever a little bit at some corners, but it's a good ABS system. Not the most high tech as you'd expect for a refined raw motorcycle, but it does well. So moving on to the suspension then. So on the front we have 41mm Showa, fully adjustable, rebound, preload, the full shebang. And on the rear you've got a preload adjustable monoshock essentially. What's really nice is straight out the box this bike feels good. And a lot of naked bikes, they kind of feel either way too firm, and obviously we'll move on to handling in a sec, but way too firm, or they're just lumbery and soft. And I think Kawasaki have struck a really nice balance with this, where it just feels good right out of the box straight away. And a lot of naked bikes with the wider bars and the sort of upright seating position, they struggle a bit. When you start playing with the suspension, they struggle and they get a little bit knife edge. But this just doesn't feel like that. It's very responsive, but doesn't feel knife edge at all, and it still feels really sporty, so very impressed with that. As I said, really responsive, but not knife edge. You don't touch the bars and the bike wiggles about everywhere. It just sort of stays planted. There is a limit to it, especially on those Dunlop Sport Max tyres. Not the biggest fan. It's sunny out here, but it's quite cold, and you go into some corners and think that's probably as far as I'd like to push it. So that's probably a little bit of a handicap to it. So if you put some proper rubber on it, I think it would change the bike entirely, and it would just be a very good package. Obviously the sports bikes and Ninjas, if they're anything to go by, they handle beautifully, and this is very similar. It's just you point and squirt and it just works. And you have to use your instincts on this when you're handling. You can't just bomb it into a corner, slam on the throttle. You have to use your instincts. You have to feed the throttle in. when you progressively feed the throttle in on you know, corner exit, the engine is just so sublime. It all works together, and you don't get any funny sort of wobbles like I have experienced on some other nakeds, not to name any names. You know, you just come out the corner and it's just super smooth, and it just makes you feel good. It's a fun bike to ride. It's good. So before I move on to the equipment, I just think I should speak about the ergonomics of the bike. So on some nakeds, it can feel, especially when you haven't got a front screen, it can feel a little bit like you're being bombarded by the wind, especially at motorway speeds. And often, if there isn't a nice sort of scoop for your legs to tuck into, you can feel like you're sort of being peeled off the bike slowly but surely at higher speed. Get to above national speed limits, and it does feel like, yeah, you're going to, you know, eventually get blown off the bike. It's natural on a bike without a fairing at the front and a screen. But on this, at normal motorway speeds, the way the bars are designed, they're quite swept back towards the rider. So you actually feel like you're actually kind of part of the bike. You don't feel like you're an addition to it and a burden to it. You feel very settled into the bike. Your legs fit in beautifully into these slots. And even without the flyer screen, you know, you feel integral to it. So that's a very good property of this motorcycle right here. And again, you know, any wider bars, bikes with wider bars, it can really be an issue. You just get bombarded and you just feel like you're just going to fall off. So not on this machine though. And in terms of ergo, the seat height is actually really low, and it's also got some slices out of the side to help any smaller riders or vertically challenged people get on and enjoy this thing. So as I said, I love the engine. The engine is a proper peach, and I think with a 900 as well, because it's just down on power a bit to the 1000, it's got a little less torque and stuff like this. It's one of those bikes where if you ride it properly and you ride it smoothly and you use your instincts, it just feels properly sweet. And perhaps that's something some people, the purists out there, might tend to side with me on this one. It's like a lot of bikes, you can kind of take the piss a bit. You can slap it on the power around the corner and get it all out of shape and it will sort itself out, whereas this, you need to be in control of it. And yeah, I suppose if anyone's a control freak, you might like it too, but it's just, you've got to ride it as you would ride it a bike 10 years ago, but the handling has just caught up, just leaps and bounds. So it almost feels like a sports bike with just normal handlebars. As I say, there is a limit, especially when you're down low and you crack on the power, you can just feel the rear just starting to want to step out a little bit. But again, it is pretty chilly, and with proper tyres, I think it wouldn't actually do that. I like the style of it. I just see a nice, aggressive, punchy, bright, and interesting looking bike, which does turn a few heads. And yeah, I think it's a beautiful looking little machine. So it's £8,549. Now that is a lot of bike for that much money. You're going to be hard pressed to find anything which is this capable. There are some nakeds out there. The MT-09, the standard one's slightly cheaper, but it handles nowhere near as well as this, personally. The SP does, but not the standard one, and the SP is obviously more expensive. There really isn't all that much that I don't like. The main thing I would say, obviously that dash not having a shift light, which would be really handy. And if it does have a shift light, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. And that in part is because you cannot hear how hard the engine's revving. And it's because of this fairly good looking exhaust. Again, that would be the next step. I know people say, oh, you know, it's a standard exhaust, it has to be quiet. I get that, but there are little tricks and exhaust control valves and things like this which can actually make a standard exhaust sound pretty good. And yeah, if it just had a little bit more of a howl, a little bit more girth to it, it would just complete this package. I'd say it's still a complete package, but louder exhaust, and you know, not antisocially loud, because chances are people are going to be commuting on it day to day and they don't want to piss off their neighbours, but you know, slightly louder and a shift light, and bam, it'll be perfect. The design of it and the flashy design, it's probably going to appeal to a younger demographic, and they might be partial to a few electronic gizmos, but of course that's going to increase the price. Is it a commuter? Yeah, you could use it for a commuter, but I think it's just a bit more capable than that. I'd say the Z650 would be a better commuter than this. I feel like this, you can have a proper hack on it, as you'll see from the videos of me hooning it round on a private track, being a bit of a dick. But yeah, very, very capable machine. Very little not to like about it, and at a good price. But as always, if you like what you see, book yourself a test ride and check it out for yourself. It's always the best way to do it. I say, if you could click like and subscribe, it would really help us out. And as always, if I've missed a few specs, you can always check out the full review on Visordown.com. I've been Harry McKenzie. Peace.